From time to time, topics pop up that we have plans for a full redirect episode, but that our audience also deserves a quicker heads up, so to speak. With that in mind, we're introducing a Cliff's Notes version of these topics to be followed by a redirect episode. We're calling these BTW with BlackTruck Media and Marketing, as in, oh, by the way. We promise to be a brief pit stop in your day, just about 10 minutes, and then we'll be gone so that you can move forward with quick takes and confidence in the digital space. We'll be back later to deliver all the details you crave from our team.
In this episode of BTW with BlackTruck Media, hey, Jason Dodge here, founder and CEO of BlackTruck Media and Marketing. I'm joined by none other than Riley Holbrook of the BlackTruck Media team. Riley, thanks for joining me on this episode.
Happy to be here and happy to learn more.
Thank you. Thank you. So in this episode of BTW, what we're going to talk about is the recent announcement by Google that they no longer will be supporting third-party cookies. Third-party cookies, by that I mean for the tracking specifically of ad networks and the use of them on its browser known as Chrome. So I guess real quick, before everyone runs to the hills with their hair on fire, maybe read sources and data that's not very maybe relevant, I really encourage you to follow our mantra that we use internally here at BlackTruck, which is don't freak out. Like that's always the big thing, right? Like just pump the brakes, don't freak out. It'll be okay. So
stay calm, educate yourself, and everything's gonna be okay.
Absolutely. Because the reality is this is something that we've actually been monitoring and have known is coming down the pipeline for over a year now. I mean, it goes back. The official announcement goes back to like January 2020 that they were going to start to make this shift. There was rumblings about it, even going back to 2019 with Google's data privacy sandbox that they were developing. But it appears as if Google's actually going to start to put the wheels in motion for a more serious shift here in the coming year. And by that, I mean, by 2022. So that's what we're looking at there. So why is this a big deal? And that's really what we're going to talk about here. Why is this a big deal? What should marketers be concerned about? How's it going to impact users and things like that? So why it's a big deal is that think about the number of users that are on Chrome, both desktop and mobile. It's over 60%. So this is a huge, meaning worldwide, over 60% of internet users use the Chrome browser, which is a massive number. It doesn't matter if you are an iOS user like you, Riley, and we discussed that on another episode about iOS 14 and the updates there. But it's really this big push for data privacy is kind of, I think, what Google's push is here. It's the same thing with Apple's push with the iOS 14 updates. So before we kind of try and unpack this, let's look at cookies for a moment. Riley, do you feel like you fully understand what cookies are and the differences in them?
I do not, Jason. I know that they're involved with tracking, obviously.
Yeah, right.
But if you could elaborate on that a little bit more and explain what a cookie is, I think that would help just clear it up on what that is so we have a good picture of what we're getting at.
Yeah, sure. I feel like we've just turned this into an SNL skit, but what is a cookie? It's not what your grandma's making. So a cookie is simply for those that don't really fully understand it, I'll try and break it down into kind of layman's terms, is that a cookie in general is a small snippet of code. It's deployed typically in a browser to track browsing history. It's also in a lot of cases what allows us as advertisers to display ads based on the data that's shared back and forth. So kind of a couple of key cookies that we want to be aware of here is there's first party and third party. First party is pretty straightforward. That's strictly data that's shared back to a single domain of the site that you're visiting for the moment. So for most of us, if you understand the Google Analytics platform, Google Analytics sets first party cookies, okay? Because it's all related to your site. So if you want to know anything about your site and what the users are doing on your site, that is set with first party cookie tracking in GA. Third party on the other side is cookies that get set on other sites that are not yours. So another domain. They collect data on another site, say CNN or the Next Web or something like that, or Vox, and they send that information back to the other domain, if you will. So the one that's different than the browser that you're currently looking at on your site right now. So that's really what cookies are in a nutshell. And I guess what and who do we see impacting this the most? I know, Riley, I've been digging into it while you've been digging into iOS stuff. I've been digging into this. So let's have a conversation about what and who this is going to impact the most, at least from our viewpoint, right? As those who are practitioners running ads actively in the Google ad networks, that type of thing. So I think the biggest thing that we see here with data privacy and the push for it is retargeting or remarketing efforts. That's really what primarily is going to get hit the hardest with this. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. Conversion level definitely will be impacted to some degrees, but the retargeting level, which is a huge component of all digital advertising, that's going to be affected the most here.
Yeah, the idea that it's going to become harder to identify audiences, really, in terms of retargeting. Hey, I want to retarget to people who specifically visited these portions of my site. While you can define that as first party data, if you will, inside of GA, once they start to go out through the ad networks, whether it's DoubleClick, exchanges and things like that, that's where this is really going to impact things a lot. Is probably more the retargeting and remarketing side of it. The other side of it is what I'm going to pick on here is more your what I call media buyers and media buying agencies, which is a little bit different than, say, like BlackTruck, right? That's a little bit different than us. We're not a media buying agency, but we play a very strong role in the world of, PPC ads, whether it's search, whether it's display and retargeting and YouTube video ads, paid social, that type of thing. But if you're a buyer that plays and buys on exchanges, those exchanges rely heavily on data and data sharing. And in that case, it's third-party cookie data. So I think it's really going to impact the networks other than Google's own network. So while this looks potentially really good for the user from a privacy perspective, some questions do come up around deep in the industry as to whether or not this is going to benefit Google more than anybody else.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So instead of tracking more intricately on the site, right, what's going to end up happening is users are going to be lumped into topics and various themes. Users get placed into what are known as cohorts. Riley, I kind of gave you a little bit of a crash course on this, but I don't expect you to know everything. Specifically, the federated learning of cohorts, aka flock, to be exact, as in what the flock is this all about.
I'm going to be you need to elaborate more, Jason.
I'm trying to provide you with as much as I know, but really what it is instead of tracking a person, an individual at that cookie level to understand that they visited all these different types of sites, that user data, if you will, is going to go into a privacy sandbox. And that sandbox is then going to help feed what are known as flocks or cohorts that basically group and bucket people into different themes. The themes could be interest-based, themes could be topic-based, that type of thing. We're starting to see some of that already, I feel, with some of the advancements in audience targeting and stuff, especially in the display network. Being able to drop in, say, a competitor's site and see what types of topics come up around that. So from that perspective, in terms of, Riley, to use your words, first touch audience, somebody who's never experienced my brand before, I think the experience for an advertiser is going to be pretty straightforward. It should be okay. Where we get into trouble is probably more on that retargeting and remarketing side of things. So that's that's the big deal there. That's what I know on that anyway.
So I just want to clarify that running first touch ads on Google Ads, the Google network, I should still be able to deliver pretty personalized ads to people.
Yeah.
Based on interest-based targeting and topics and such.
Totally. I'm pretty confident that will still remain. Absolutely. I think where, if we look ahead as to where marketers should really focus, in terms of, I don't dare say future proof, because I think in the world of digital, it's always changing and always evolving. But where marketers should really be focused on the most is thinking about that retargeting and that remarketing piece and how that's going to change, which means the push for generating your own first party data is becoming more important, meaning first party data, meaning email addresses. How are you gathering those right now? How are you building up your database of people that you can then reach back out to? Whether that's a strong B2B services company or product company, or you're more in the consumables and B2C, it even goes back to that original, like, how do I create a flywheel with my people? I have an audience, I have their email. It's becoming more and more important to have my own first party data. Developing rewards programs and things like that that keep people back in my system. That's first party data, and you have the ability to generate that. And I think the other thing is don't freak out. There will be a solution for this. Similar, Riley, you and I have had discussions about iOS 14 and Facebook having updates there. Now Google might force things on us that are even more vague than Facebook, but there's going to be a solution on the ad side of it in terms of what the user experience. You're probably not going to see anything largely different, right? So there's still going to be some personalization of ads and things like that. I think that a lot of this is still yet to shake out. So again, don't freak out about it. Be aware of it. I don't think there's anything that you need to run right out and make major changes to. And quite frankly, you really can't, other than start to be thinking about how you can generate your own first party data, right? Gather that information that's important to you about your customers. So that's kind of what I have.
Yeah, so if I heard it right there towards the end, is no need to freak out right now. This is still a very fresh, recent announcement by Google. So just stay tuned and not keep managing the way you're managing, but just stay tuned for more information coming out there from credible sources on what you should be doing next.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. I think you summed it up really, really well. Is be educated, understand what the difference. I think the biggest difference is there. What is a first party cookie? What's a third party cookie? Understanding maybe loosely where they're set or how they're used, what networks are using them. If you want to go that deep in nerdland, and yeah, be patient. It's going to roll out here in 2022. And I think that we continue to see the information come out, and we'll learn more. So with that, that wraps up this episode of BTW with BlackTruck. And as always, good luck.